Well, good evening. Welcome back. It is January the 15th, 2014. I'm Ralph Lillig, your host for Wednesday Night Live. And we're glad you came back. Probably not too much going on the other channels right now. Anyway, the Golden Globes are out of the way. Did you watch that? I didn't. And I have to tell you, I was just turned off by the opening when the opening line was, welcome women and gays. And I thought, wait a minute, don't I get a shot at this? So I didn't even bother to watch it, which may seem kind of contradictory because I'm going to give you a little film review tonight on some of the latest stuff that's out. As a member of Screen Actors Guild, I get free things every year. They send me these things so that I'll vote, obviously, for them. So I have a couple that are in the news. A couple of them were on Golden Globes the other night, and one of them won some. So we'll talk about that. But before we do that, a couple of things I want to remind you about, and this is, we'll try to do this each week. Number one, I want to remind you to please remember Pastor Saeed Abedini in your prayers. Saeed Abedini, as I told you before, is in prison in Iran. He is a convert from Islam to Christianity. He's been in prison for a number of years. It is not good for a former Muslim to become a Christian in a Muslim country because the Muslims are not forgiving. They don't, and in their culture, that's the death sentence. And I suppose being in prison in Iran would be even worse, especially for him. So please keep Pastor Saeed Abedini and his family in your prayers. Pray that the Holy Spirit will touch the hearts of the monsters who run that nation. All right, Pastor Abedini. Now, we're this coming Sunday is Sanctity Sunday, and I'm going to make you a little offer on that. But before I do, now have a pencil and paper handy because you're going to maybe, I hope, you'll want to write down this internet address so that you can look something up. Before I do that, though, as I do every week at this time, I want to remind you about the folks at Compassion and Hope Pregnancy Center, 478-HOPE. And that's all you really have to remember, other than these folks are all about life. Life for the unborn child, life for the born child. Oftentimes young mothers, oftentimes unwed mothers, who have chosen to give life rather than to allow Planned Parenthood to, do the opposite. So remember, Compassion and Hope Pregnancy Center, call them please at 478-HOPE. It's very easy. I mean, I'm doing this without a script card and I can remember it, so 478-HOPE. Call them and see what you can do to help a young mother, a baby, to have some life. And God will bless you for that, I have no doubt. And also remember the folks at Double Shot Coffee, two locations, one at Jefferson and Elm. Remember, they're the little kiosks that sit off the road a little bit. Each of them are in a parking lot. Jefferson and Elm, go by and if you're out running errands, you get a little down, you need a little shot of coffee, or you want to have a delicious hot chocolate, Italian sodas, whatever you like, stop there and see the folks at Jefferson and Elm at Double Shot Cafe or kiosk. And the other one is located at Pole Line, in that little island that's described by Pole Line, Quinn Road, and Pocatello Creek Road, over by the Green Tea restaurant. There's another Double Shot Coffee there. So stop in either one of them. Tell them I sent you. Tell them I sent you. I don't get anything other than the satisfaction of knowing that you and I are both doing something for life. So now, I ask you to have a pencil and paper handy. This Sunday is Sanctity Sunday, and I'll read this right off this flyer. It makes it a little easier. As you may know, this Sunday, January 19th, is Sanctity of Life Sunday, a day where we take time out to reflect upon the precious gift of life. This basic inalienable right is being stripped away by a culture of death that promotes the belief that lives are imperfect, immature, or inconvenient, and are discardable. During the past 40 years, get this figure, during the past 40 years, 56 million unborn children have been killed at the hands of abortionists, and for the most part, the media, our leaders, and society have remained silent. This is why now more than ever, we must take a stand and educate ourselves about the root causes and damaging impact of abortion. Now, other than just the raw numbers, 56 million, and we're talking about American babies. We're not talking about Europe or anybody else, Asia, Africa. We're talking about American, 56 million. Now, when you hear the pleas going out for a free ride for all of the illegal aliens because there's some 13 million, real figures are closer to 30 million. And we do need many of those people. We do need those folks for many of the jobs that we have in this country, not all of them. But just think about it. We killed 56 million children, some of whom may have been the replacements we needed, so we don't have to, for lack of a better term, import help from elsewhere. So think about it. Now, here's the address. Write this down, please. And this is free. It's a free copy of Abortion, the Ultimate Exploitation of Women. And you can get it as an electronic download. Go to, and this is all one word, Manhattan Declaration. Manhattan, like the island of Manhattan. ManhattanDeclaration.org. Now, you can get a free download of this book. And I think, if you are a Christian, and I'm assuming much of my audience, if not most of my audience is, I think you will find this very rewarding. And where are you going to get a book for free these days, especially on a topic of such importance as that? All right, we're going to do something. We haven't done this for a couple of years. Well, I guess it's been about a year. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to do a little film review on some films that my wife and I received, or videos now. I keep saying film, run the tape, Tony, or whatever. They're all on videos. But we received some discs on films that are in the news. You see their trailers on the television all the time. And we have had an opportunity to preview, I think it's about 6 or 7 of these. So I'm going to share what we saw, and I hope, let them be your guide. Now, one of them that's very big right now is the movie titled Captain Phillips with Tom Hanks. And I can only say that it is a good movie. The story is based on the real incident of Captain Phillips. You may recall this happened a couple of years ago now, I think it is, when Somali pirates took over this ship, and Captain Phillips was the hero on that. SEALs were the heroes. It's a good movie. And fortunately, they don't make many movies you can watch with your whole family these days. Whatever they're thinking in Hollywood is, who knows. But this one you can watch with the whole family. I don't remember them dropping the F-bomb at all, and I'm so glad. It's becoming more and more difficult to find modern films that you can share with your family. But this is a story I'm glad it's being told. The backstory on this, and I've been recently seeing this on the internet, is just as fascinating as the real story about Captain Phillips. The backstory, and you can look this up, and you should look this up, was about how Obama and his sycophants dithered before they finally allowed the SEALs to go in and do their job. They were on station trying to do their job much earlier than this film portrays. And then they were forced to wait just terrible hours while these people were in jeopardy. But the film stars Tom Hanks, and I've never seen anything he can't play. So I don't know if you'd say I'm a Tom Hanks fan. I guess I am. He does an excellent job as Captain Phillips. So there's a movie you want to watch. Also, that one of them that's really hot right now, and I don't know, I guess I can recommend it. This is certainly an adult theme. Now, there's an old saying that there are only 8 stories in Hollywood. I think it's 8. And there's love, and there's hate, and there's crime, and there's passion. And they just they recycle those 8 stories, and they put them in different garments. And this one, I guess you can say, is one of those 8 stories, but it's rather unique, and it's put together very well. It's called American Hustle. You probably have seen the trailers for American Hustle. I have to warn you in advance, the language is blue. It's a foul language. It seems like they can't make movies, except for Captain Phillips. They can't make them without foul language. It fits, I guess you could say, in this movie, the type of movie, although, they don't have actors like they did back in the old days. I say back in the old days. The actors that I grew up with, perhaps you did, the Gary Coopers and the Tracys and the rest of them, they don't have these really larger-than-life people anymore. And unfortunately, they don't have really good scripts anymore for the most part. That being said, American Hustle is not bad by current standards. It's interesting, it's entertaining, it has kind of an interesting little twist, and here again, it's just a replay of something you've seen in different garments. But it's, I would say, if you're adult enough to put up with the foul language, certainly don't take your kids and your grandkids to it. It's not that kind of film. But it is a good story, and has a very good cast. See if I can find out who we had in here. Had Christian Bales. Remember, he's Batman, and has Bradley Cooper. Amy Adams, just saw her in another movie last night, and really good actress. Jeremy Renner, Jennifer Lawrence, looking beautiful as ever. And then not all of these names just roll off the tongue. In fact, not all of these faces were familiar to me. Anyway, American Hustle, if you can get past all the foul language, yeah, it's entertaining. Takes place, I think it was back in the 70s. Now here's a movie that I liked it, and it's based on a true story. It's kind of a piece of American history. There are only a few. In fact, the names in this movie were not necessarily familiar to me. Some of the faces were. I'd seen them before. The only face and name that I really recognized was Paul Giamatti, and we've seen him in a lot. Alfred Woodman, I recognized her, Woodward, I should say. Woodard. I wouldn't have known who she was if I hadn't seen the picture. She's a great little actress. She has had roles here and there. The star in this is Chetwi Ejiofor. I think that's not the easiest name to pronounce. You'll see the face is familiar to me. But this is called 12 Years a Slave. This could have been a great movie. As it is, it's a good movie. It has historical significance. It talks about basically a time in our country when slavery was it was an issue. But this man was not a slave to begin with. He was a free man, lived in the North, in Massachusetts, and becomes a slave. And when you see how it is much like when sailors were impressed into the Navy, he has gotten drunk by a couple of guys. Well, I won't give you the whole story, but it's worthwhile, and I don't remember there being any overt foul language in this. You can take your kids to see this. It's not really heavyweight. There are some things in it that are, well, they're contemporary to that era, and it's a good history lesson. And then you as a parent can fill in the blanks on the part of history that's left out. But I would recommend it. It's got 4 Screen Actors Guild Award nominations. I don't know if I would give it an award nomination, but I'm not a film critic. I'm just giving you, I'm like the guy that looks at the picture. I just know what I like, don't necessarily know art. But it's not a bad movie. It's an okay movie, and you might enjoy it. Now, the one that's getting a lot of talk and I guess it got 4 Golden Globes the other night, which doesn't mean a thing to me. Golden Globes is even more pathetic than the Screen Actors, what do they call the little statue. A bunch of fakers faking their happiness so that they can get this little statue and hopefully get a better job. They're actors. What can I tell you? However, this is an excellent story. And here again, this is based on a true incident, true time period or whatever. Matthew McConaughey stars in this, and I've seen him in a number of films, and I'm not a big fan of his, but I usually find his acting good, certainly better than adequate. Here again, I don't see him as bigger than life like the old stars, but of today's genre, he's a good actor. In this, he is a superb actor, and he will probably get an Academy Award for his portrayal. Dallas Buyers Club. This is a different kind of story. It's a real story. Here again, the language is blue, foul mouth, foul language. And I find myself, I don't think I'm jaded. I find myself at a point where I think, do I want to continue watching this? I just really don't like listening to this. But the story is compelling. It truly is. And because it's based on a true incident, it's worth watching. Dallas Buyers Club. And here again, it's certainly not for the whole family. This is, and if you've been married for a number of years and you and your wife can put up with it, you may want to go watch it. It is worth watching. It's just that but here again, the language fits the movie. And you'll see why. If you see the movie, it fits the movie. It is a story all by itself. Anyway, it's Dallas Buyers Club. See if I can find any other names in that. No. Okay. Matthew McConaughey, Jennifer Garner, and Jared Leto. Oh, I forgot to tell you on the Captain Phillips. Interesting side note on Captain Phillips. The man who plays the major supporting role in this, black fellow, he may be Somalian, I don't know. If he's not, he's got the accent down. He looks Somali. He has the features, could be Somali, perhaps Ethiopian. But prior to this, I don't recall what his job was, but he basically had a mundane not, nothing scintillating kind of a job. This was his first job of acting, and he does a superb job. And here he is, a guy who's not a professional actor, acting with Tom Hanks, who has been around for many years, who produces, directs, stars, and the guy held his own with Tom Hanks. So, if for no other reason but to see this fellow that plays the second fiddle, if you will, on Captain Phillips, it's well worth it. I'd never seen the fellow before, for obvious reasons. He's brand new to the film industry. I hope he gets other work, because he's very good. Now maybe this was a one-trick pony for him, but I suspect he put so much into this. I think he has talent that he can go elsewhere. All right, another one that has been getting a lot of trailer time on TV, Blue Jasmine. What a waste of time. A Woody Allen film, frenetic, schizophrenic, like everything Woody Allen does. If you ever saw his comedy routine, it was amusing in the 70s. It started wearing thin in the 80s, and in the 90s it disappeared. This movie is a downer from beginning to end. Stars, what's her name, Chenoweth, is that her name? I don't recall. The ice princess in one of the C.S. Lewis movies, and she was in one of the, the thing about the orcs and all that. I'm sorry. I have a picture of her in my mind. She's a good actress. I don't knock her for that. But the movie is just a waste of time. And here again, a lot of unnecessarily, I think, foul language, but it's so schizophrenic, so frenetic, so spacey that it really isn't worth your time. Blue Jasmine. You're going to see it advertised a lot, but yeah, it's 98 minutes, and that's plenty. That's plenty. Now here's a movie that has been getting a lot of play, mostly because of, I think, of the actors, and it has a superb cast. I say a superb cast, well-known names. The star of this is Forrest Whitaker. Is that his name? Forrest Whitaker, and he is the main character in this. It has Oprah Winfrey in there, and I saw her in was it Deep Purple or The Color Purple. She did an outstanding job in the movie Color Purple. In this one, she's adequate. I'm finding I like her less and less as I see her, but I'm trying to be honest about her. She's adequate and not much more than that. But it has, listen to some of the actors in here. They're in the current genre. These are big names: Forrest Whitaker, John Cusack, Terrence Howard, Oprah Winfrey, that woman whose name I don't even pronounce in public, Lenny Kravitz, Liev Schreiber, Cuba Gooding Jr., Vanessa Redgrave, and those are some big names. Vanessa Redgrave is a very capable actress. I've never seen her in anything where I didn't think she was good. This movie, unfortunately, even though it had potential for being a really good movie, it's the life of this man who becomes a butler in the White House and serves through four different presidents, and the movie should have been outstanding. As it was, in my opinion, was very pedestrian, and that's unfortunate because you've got some really accomplished actors in here. The movie is it's a yawn. Doesn't have a lot of filthy language though, and you can watch it. You might want to preview it. I don't remember how it was rated. You might want to preview it if you're planning, because you could make some historical arguments for it. But sadly, I expected more from it, and here again, it's pretty pedestrian. And the last one I'm going to share with you is this one that I'm astonished at this one. It's called August, Osage County. Now, this movie is billed as a comedy. If this is what passes as comedy in Hollywood, and let's face it, who knows what passes as comedy or decency or anything else in Hollywood. August, Osage County is absolutely one of the worst films I've ever seen. Now, I say that, I'm saying it straight up and down too. Produced by George Clooney, not one of my favorite people. Steve Traxler, don't know anything about him. Here are some of the people. Now, and this, just by the cast, this should have been an astonishingly good film. And I suspect because the Holly weirdos will love it, they'll call it art. It's not, it's filth. It's just about 2 shades short of degenerate. Meryl Streep. I've only seen her in one other film that I didn't like. She was supposed to be an Italian immigrant wife with Clint Eastwood in the movie, Bridges of Madison County, I think it was. The only film I've ever seen her in besides this, where she just wasn't there. In this movie, she gives a sterling performance, and if you're going to base it strictly on the performance, which I guess they do, Maybe she'll get an Academy Award. She was, as she always is, she was superb. The movie stinks, but she was good. Julia Roberts, not a big fan of hers, but I liked her in Steel Magnolias. You know, she was a very sympathetic character in that. Ewan McGregor, I always like Ewan McGregor. Abigail Breslin and Sam Shepard, I like Sam Shepard. They all carry their roles all right in this movie, but the movie, the language is foul, the whole atmosphere is just lousy. It's basically a family get-together, and it's just wretched. I mean, truly, it is wretched. Now, I am not a professional film critic, and perhaps if you read this in Idaho State Journal or in Wall Street Journal or something, you'll get an altogether different take on all of these films. But I'm a pretty plain rap guy, pretty simple about my tastes. I generally don't like stuff that I can't enjoy with my family. There are some things that I wouldn't invite my family to watch that I watch. My wife and I may watch it. These, I reviewed them simply because I got them for free, and there's all this buzz on TV right now, and I've given you my honest opinion on these. That's about all you can ask. So, you know, decide for yourself if it's worth your $12 or whatever it is per person to go see any of these. I've told you the one that I liked, that really liked, Captain Phillips. Other than that, save your money. By the way, I got a calendar this year from the Idaho Freedom Foundation, and every day of the year, 365 pages on this calendar. I don't think, is this a leap year? Maybe it'll be 366. Anyway, for Wednesday, January 15th, on it's one of those little desk calendars. And this one is all about ridiculous laws in Idaho. This one is, in New Plymouth, Idaho, it is illegal to speak rude on the premises of a drive-in restaurant or any other business with a drive-in. Blowing the horn also is not allowed. That's a law. So, don't know what brought that on in the first place, but well, okay, we can live with that. Well, let's get to it. Did you see? And Josh, I'm getting ready to call this one up, so if you need to spin it up and get it ready, I don't know how you're holding there. Did you see the State of the State address by Governor Otter? Well, Russ Fulcher is running against Governor Alter in the upcoming elections, and Russ Fulcher gave an answer to the State of the State by the governor. So, Russ, are we good to go on that number one? Okay, let's watch Russ Fulcher as he answers Governor Otter's State of the State.
Hello, I'm Russ Fulcher, State Senator from Meridian. But more importantly, I'm a father, a husband, and a businessman. I grew up on a family farm and was educated in Idaho schools and universities. My adult life has been spent raising a family and working in the private sector. My career has allowed me to travel the world promoting and growing Idaho's economy and tech industry. In all my experience, I have come to know that Idaho truly is a special place. But our beloved state is in trouble. Our people are hurting. Unemployment in some counties is up to 14%, with youth unemployment even higher. Some 220,000 Idahoans are on food stamps, and 1 in 4 of our fellow citizens are on public assistance. Those who can find work struggle to make ends meet in low-wage jobs. Businesses are hurting because Idaho has one of the most burdensome tax climates in the West. Unfortunately, the governor's State of the State address offers more evidence that he is out of touch with Idaho's problems. He's offering more of the same mediocre policies that won't advance our friends and neighbors on a path toward prosperity and opportunity. I say these things without malice. Governor Otter and I have been on the same side on many issues, but after almost 40 years in elected office, I believe the governor's status quo approach does not empower people. His status quo approach does not provide Idahoans with the opportunities they need to advance. I believe we're at a crossroads. We can choose a path of individual empowerment, economic opportunity and advancement, or one in which the results are more of the same: mediocrity, personal disincentive, and an increasing dependency on government. I believe the direction we are going takes us down the path of the latter. Idaho needs innovative leadership and new solutions, not tepid leadership that does not dare to tackle the challenges before us. What if Idaho led the way? What if Idaho stood out as a champion of freedom and free markets? Imagine if our state had the least burdensome tax structure in the country, What if our state provided unfettered opportunities for homegrown entrepreneurship and a tax and regulatory climate that would attract high-wage jobs? What if Idaho were aggressive in developing our energy resources? What if Idaho was the easiest place in the world to start a business and stay in business? Imagine our state with the best schools, where students are given the chance to be creative, where teachers and parents are empowered to innovate and educate, where students have the greatest opportunities after high school to continue their education or enter the workforce. Imagine our state not only fighting Obamacare, but providing real patient-centered solutions that result in better access to care, more choice, and lower costs. That's what I want for our state, for your family, and for mine. But that's not what the governor is offering in his State of the State message. The governor offers a different course, more tinkering with the tax code and using the power of the government to pick winners and losers. More support for Obamacare and the policies that have already cost 105,000 Idahoans their insurance plans through cancellation. More implementation of a top-down education agenda that hinders local control and does nothing to improve our schools. Traveling around Idaho, fellow citizens told me they were discouraged and disheartened with the status quo. They told me they don't want more of the same. They said they don't want another taxpayer dime or man-hour spent on a state-run federal health exchange through Obamacare. They want a full review of the Common Core Education Initiative. I listened. I share their concerns. I'm committed to facing these issues head-on. I want to empower Idahoans to work with me to advance Idaho's economy through major changes in education and health care. I can see our destiny. It's a brighter future for Idaho, a future of freedom and prosperity. I will work hard to earn your trust and listen to your concerns. I hope that you will support my effort to get us on the right track. Through creativity, innovation, hard work, and faith in God, Idaho can become the sparkling gem of the nation. Together, we can do this, empowering you and advancing Idaho in the process. Thank you, and God bless.
Well, there you have it. There's Russ Fulcher. I believe he's a state senator. He's in elected office, and I should know better because I've met the man and I've been trying to keep track of what he's doing. And I think he's a worthy opponent, if you will, for Governor Otter. Fulcher has been in state government for some time. He's not what you would call a career politician, but he has some experience. And you know, it's interesting. In watching him, that's the first time I've seen him give a canned speech, if you will. And there are some things perhaps that he may want to improve or change as he comes along. But the thing that impressed me about it is I watched the video and I remember the last time I met him, and he's really speaking from the heart. I get the impression, I get the feeling from having spoken to him and exchanged ideas that he is a man of integrity. He is a true conservative, not a rhino. Now, you know, that's one of the things that I'm very unhappy, if you will, with Butch Otter. I've liked Otter ever since I came to the state, and as long as he's been my governor, and I've liked him. But I've watched him drift, in my opinion. I've watched him drift from right of center or center and just going a little bit more to the left and a little bit more rhino-ish. And I don't really understand why. As Russ Fulcher points out, the governor's been in public office for 40 years. And, you know, after the first maybe 2 times in a public office, you're pretty much out of fresh ideas. Unless you keep bringing in new people and canning the guys you had before, you're pretty much running out of fresh ideas. And I think the governor has stopped listening to the people he used to listen to, or he's running out of fresh ideas. I think Russ Fulcher is the guy we should be looking at very keenly between now and time for the election. At this point, I'm very strongly in his corner and plan to support him. Unless he does something truly bad news, I can see no reason why I wouldn't vote for him in the primary. So we'll see. But anyway, Russ Fulcher, keep the name in mind. If you don't already know Russ Fulcher, as I said, I've met him, I've talked to him, a really decent guy. Got to meet his daughter. She was with him and his campaign manager, just down-to-earth good people. And so that's Russ Fulcher. Okay, now, It's very interesting. There were two things that Mr. Fulcher, Senator Fulcher, whatever his title is, two things he really got into. And he talks a little bit about the economy, but two things that are really a thorn under my blanket. Common Core, and the more I learn about it, the more disgusted I am with it. And, oh, phooey, I just, I can't believe it just drew a blank. Well, we'll get back to it. The economy certainly, but Common Core, this thing is a nightmare. And boy, is it getting played up. Let me just read an article to you from the January 10th Idaho State Journal, and it says, Otter aims to fight for Common Core by Debbie Bryce. As I've mentioned to you many times in the past, I always like Debbie Bryce, the way she writes and what she has to say, and she's usually pretty concise. So, Governor C.L. Butch Otter and Pocatello-Chubbuck School District 25 Superintendent Mary Wagner find themselves on the same page when it comes to Common Core standards. Strike one against both of them. Yet, as Idaho school kids face the new standards to assess their educational progress, Otter is confronted with having to undermine legislative foes who have said they may try to reverse them. And that's good news. Now, I understand that there are at least 8 other states who were either looking at Common Core or introduced it into their school systems, and they said no way and got out. And I'm hoping that we're going to do the same, but I continue. In his State of the State speech Monday, Otter pledged to back changes meant to help boost the privacy security of student data, while simultaneously saying he'll fight to keep Common Core in place. Promoters say these classroom standards will boost critical thinking among students. We'll see about that. Among those promoters is, needless to say, School District 25 Superintendent Mary Wagner. Some opponents, however, have branded the standards the product of a federal push. Otter, meanwhile, counters that Common Core is the result of state-led efforts to boost academic rigor, or as you might call it, rigor mortis, not some top-down initiative from Washington. Well, that's baloney. As for Wagner, she told the NAACP that the new standards are aimed at getting students better prepared for college and the workforce after graduation. District 25 has been preparing to implement Common Core for the past 2 years, she said. District 25 will no longer teach cursive writing to meet the goal of providing students with proficient typing skills by 5th grade. Now, you may have heard this, maybe your child is already involved in this. One of the arguments is that since children are doing more and more on the computers and they're using typing, the keyboard, there's no need for cursive writing. I would disagree. Is cursive writing becoming old-fashioned? Perhaps. You know, I remember, and you may remember if you're anywhere near my age, the writing exercises we had when we were children, how we were taught to move and flow and so on. If nothing else, teaching our children cursive is good hand-eye mental acuity coordination. So why would we take out anything that enhances or improves the ability of our child to think, even if they don't use cursive? And I have, just because I'm a stubborn old codger and I do these things, I have recently gone back to using my cursive. I got into a habit of printing because my handwriting had gotten rather sloppy, so I've decided to pick it up again. I've gone back to using my cursive, and I found that it doesn't take long to lose those skills, and I have to work with it. These are good cognitive skills for our children. Why would you take anything away from them? Now, I could probably be, you know, somebody in the school district could say, well, Ralph, we just need that time. We can't afford the time to teach them cursive. Humbug. Well, anyway, I digress, as I often do. So let me continue. So they need to do this, do away with cursive to meet the goal of providing students with proficient typing skills by 5th grade. Wagner said ISAT/ISATs will be replaced with Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium testing. 30 states are involved in building the Smarter Balanced test. In states that have moved to the rigorous testing, scores have dropped, Wagner said. And I find that interesting. If she's all for it and she sees that the scores have dropped, why would we be pushing it? I don't think it's a mistype from the story writer. While enrollment has increased, we've had to make do with fewer staff members, Wagner said. We have a $1.9 million to make ends meet. We are efficient and effective because we have great teachers. With 12,000 students enrolled, the district functions with just over 39 administrative workers, well below the national average of just over 44, and 629 teachers 23 less than the average. And the district employs 223 classified staff members. Well, all right, so we know that Superintendent Wagner is for Common Core. We know that Butch is for Common Core. What do we need to see about, well, let's do a little bit more about Common Core and the school district. Now, this is from the Idaho, just yesterday, from the forum section of the Idaho State Journal, and I've pared it down a bit because I didn't, well, we just didn't need all the paragraphs in there, but it gives you the idea. And it says, let's end Idaho's death spiral. Cautious in an election year when he faces a Republican primary challenger, Governor Otter has decided to phase in those task force recommendations, those that you heard about, in the next 5 years. This was the task force that Luna put together. Otter's proposed boost to public education this year is a modest 2.9% increase over last year's budget. In his State of the State speech last week, Otter called his public education proposal a significant start on a multi-year effort to restore funding to public schools that we withheld during the prolonged economic turndown. Bob Locken, Chief Executive Officer of White Cloud Analytics in Boise, warned the Boise Metro Chamber of Commerce last week that Idaho is in a death spiral of poor education and low wages. I'm going to digress here for a moment. I have a friend who teaches in the private sector, and I didn't even know that until recently, and I learned that. And she made an interesting comment to me. She said that when she came to Idaho, and I don't know where she came from, she's been here quite a while, she was astonished at how much more the Idaho education, Pocatello school teachers made than what she had been making where she was teaching before. And she had a hard time understanding all the grousing that the union, and of course the union, that's what they do, is grouse, about the low wages for school teachers in Pocatello especially, but in Idaho in general. Last year, Idaho earned the dubious distinction of ranking at the bottom of the nation in per capita income, while leading the nation in the percentage of workers earning the minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. This is the death spiral. I'm trying to grow a knowledgeable knowledge era business in the state of Idaho, and I can't find the critical knowledge workers I need, Locken said. Locken went on to voice his support for the new, more rigorous Common Core standards for Idaho's children. Now, let me give you an idea of what this Common Core thing is all about. And I urge you to look into it for yourself. Don't go to the usual suspects. The usual suspects are going to tell you how great it is. In my opinion, it's dumbing the kids down, as they have been doing for the last 30 years, 40 years, dumbing them down to bring them all to the same basic common denominator so they'll all look and think alike. They'll all have the same whatever speak, and they can all be on the same page. Now, here's a question for you. This is a question put to fourth graders. In a fourth grade class of 18 students, the students were asked to count by a number which gave the final number as 90. What was the number by which they counted? How do you get the number by which they counted? That's right, you divide 90 by 18, and you get 5 for your answer. But under the rigors of Common Core, you would be marked wrong with a simple two-step solution. Common Core requires a fourth grade student to draw 18 circles and make 90 hash marks in the circles, thereby solving the problem in 108 steps. Does that translate to college-ready math to you? Now, why would we have the kids taking off their shoes and counting on their toes rather than teaching them old-fashioned multiplication and division? Well, that's not even scratching the surface of this fallacy they're calling Common Core. And the more I see of it, the more disgusted I get with Common Core itself, its alleged objectives. Its alleged objectives, they're not alleged at all. The objectives really are not going to, they're not going to enhance our kids. They're not going to make them brighter, more erudite, more intellectually stable and sound. They're going to make them, at the best, automatons. Now, I know I can already hear the teachers in my audience saying, Lillig, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm a professional. Yeah, well, professionals drove the Titanic into an iceberg. So, that's, all right. Now, this is from a website, an online website called EAG News by Joe the Plumber. Remember Joe the Plumber? I don't know if it's the same guy or not. But it's interesting because it's going to this whole Common Core thing. So let me, now remember, this is not from one of your usual sites. This is a blog site, EAG News. School recommends pornography for reading assignments. This is out of Geismar, Louisiana. Judging from the content of several texts recommended by the Common Core state standards, it seems apparent that both the creators of the standards and the U.S. Department of Education, by way of its continued endorsement and funding of the standards, consider sex, profanity, and violence to be somehow beneficial to the education of children. Thanks to a few attentive parents, we know that at least 2 Common Core text exemplars, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison and Dreaming in Cuban by Cristina Garcia, contain pornography and vulgar language. Now you can Google both of these. The Bluest Eye by Toni, T-O-N-I, Morrison, and Dreaming in Cuban by Cristina Garcia. Dutchtown High School in the Ascension Parish School District of Louisiana recommended both The Bluest Eye and Dreaming in Cuban to students in 2012 as part of a required summer reading assignment. In addition to these 2 books, several others on the school's summer reading list contain sexually explicit material, sexual themes, graphic violence, and profanity. Some of them recommended reading, some required. 11th grade English 3 AP students, advanced placement students, were required to read Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. This book was previously banned for offensive language and sexually explicit content. Another required text from the Dutchtown High School list is Thomas C. Foster's How to Read Literature Like a Professor. Sounds harmless enough and boring, right? Hardly. In his book, Foster jumps immediately into race baiting his readers in the introduction, no less, by comparing white people to the devil. Many pages, including a chapter titled It's All About Sex, are dedicated to finding the sexual component in literature. Readers are taught to look for sex in everything, such as identifying lances, swords, guns, and keys as phallic symbols, and chalices, grails, and bowls as symbols of female sexual organs. Unfortunately, CCSSO and the Obama administration have cunningly managed to avoid accountability for The Bluest Eye and Dreaming in Cuban by way of liability waivers, and by labeling these trash texts as recommended and the standards as voluntary and state-led. States and districts, however, can and should be made accountable for this obvious attack on our children and on parental authority. Think School District 25. Now, I don't know that School District 25 is recommending these or if they have even intend to. That is not the point here. The point is that these are under the umbrella of Common Core, and they are on their recommended list of potential reading material for kids that are in the Common Core system. This happens to be speaking about a school in one parish in Louisiana, but the list is national. It's a broad brushstroke. So our Common Core people here could choose. I don't think they would, but we never know. The school district never ceases to surprise me. As explained here, the heart of the Common Core state standards is a political and social agenda. These standards are a means to further infiltrate and then take over schools for the purpose of indoctrinating and controlling our children, a vital step in an attempt to decimate the social and moral fabric of our country. Ascension Parish has long been a politically conservative district, boasting some of the highest performing schools in the state of Louisiana. The district recently ranked 7th out of 70 in the state. Today, however, it appears to be the district most enthusiastic to embrace the morally corrupt agenda of the Common Core state standards. And you can read more about that in Common Core in Louisiana and Ascension Parish. Now, I was looking over the Dutchtown High School 2012 summer reading. And of course, as I've already told you, that The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, and I read a little bit of this. And my wife called my attention to it. She said, "Ralph, you're not going to believe this. You need to look at this because this is potentially could be, and I use this in wide brushstrokes, could be in our school curriculum because it is in the advised curriculum, I'm told. Doesn't mean they have to take this, but it's one of those that Common Core says, yeah, it's a good idea. So I've told you about the bluest eye. Dreaming in Cuban, equally disgusting. Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. That one I haven't read any part of that other than what's in this article. But I went over this. Now this is, let's see, this is 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade summer reading list. And I looked at this and I thought, these kids are basically being told by this reading list in what's supposed to be one of the better schools in Louisiana, in Ascension Parish. They're being told, their teachers are educating them using pulp novels and magazine articles. This is not how you teach your children to think, to reason, to communicate. What happened to the old stuff? You know, the Mark Twain and the Dickens. If you want to get really heavy, go into Chaucer and the Iliad and some of these other, Shakespeare. But those were meant to make us think, as you well know. And some of us didn't like to. I didn't like to think. When I had to read Shakespeare, it drove me nuts because it was in Elizabethan English. So I had to learn another language, so to speak, to read it. I can't tell you that I still understand it, but it did make me think. I had to get into it. And now they're saying, well, under Common Core, let's take 108 steps to solve a simple math problem that you could do with simple division. 2 steps. We're going to take 108. How does that improve the skills of your child? It doesn't. It's like counting on your fingers and toes. How does reading pulp novels and magazine articles enhance your child's ability to think, to dream big, to have real ideas about the world, about themselves? Are they all being melted down to each of us then, each of our children are just a piece of meat in the great scheme of things? The more I look into Common Core, the more disgusted I get. And the thing that troubles me as much or more than anything is our governor and the superintendent of schools in School District 25 think this is great. Tom Luna apparently thinks it is great. You parents, who, especially those of you who still have children in school, if you're not already homeschooling them, give it serious thought. Or you could put them in, and I'll tell you about another school in a minute, and I'll make it very obvious why. But be very, very careful about, ask your kids, tell them you want to read, you want to see their reading list. Take a look at them, see if you have Mark Twain, if you have Dickens, if you have some of the greats of history. See if they have real stuff to read, real stuff to learn, or if they're being taught according to the Common Core. And I'm sorry, folks, they said it doesn't come from the top down. Yes, it does. This comes right out of the Obamanist White House and their ideas to melt everybody down to a Soviet-style think. And that's the ultimate goal, is to bring us all down to the Soviet-style think, make us all dependent on the government for everything, and we will think nothing beyond. I suppose they'll teach you how to put widgets in their places, but you won't be able to think to do cumulative reasoning. Well, all right. Now, if you don't already have your kid in the school, or if you're not already homeschooling, let me just recommend. This is out of yesterday's Idaho State Journal, an article by Tammy Scardino. Remember Tammy? Used to be on television. I believe she got married, and she writes for the Journal, I guess on an article-by-article basis. And I like the stuff that she brings in. I don't see a lot of her, but I like the stuff that she brings in. This is Grace School robotics team to attend state competition. I thought they were talking about the city of Grace, and here I see the Grace Lutheran School Royal Thunderbolts robotics team will represent Eastern Idaho. The winning team members are Noah Honeycutt, Sean Devine, Brendan Bertie, Christian Moore, Jovan Spencer, Tim Pennington, Gus Haugland, Christian McCullough, and twins Arn and Jenf Clutch. What they discover is more important than winning. The whole idea is that everyone is included, one of the teachers said. First Lego League is an international competition for elementary and middle school students. These are students who are academically driven, she said. They're working on their presentation skills and learning how to be part of a team. They're competing with their minds. The winning robotics team, made up of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, will compete against 48 other teams at the state level. We placed first out of 24 teams to begin with. We're hoping to win at the state level and move on to the national level, Cummings said. Our team came up with the idea to have a trailer that carries solar panels to different areas. It's portable, renewable energy basically. The robot can even move the panels into direct sunlight, Cummings said. They're really smart kids. Now, as you probably know, Grace Lutheran School, and you know I attend there. I'm proud of the school. They're a blue ribbon school. They aren't using Common Core, and we're going to strongly urge that they don't get involved with it. Not that we have that much to say about it, but we hope they don't. But they're a blue ribbon school. Now, obviously, you have to pay for your kids to go to Grace Lutheran School and or to the Catholic schools. You pay for that. But your kids get an education. They're taught how to think, how to reason, how to communicate, how to do cognitive thinking, not Common Core. So, you know, you may have to stretch your budget, but you may consider putting your kids in a private school or homeschooling. Either way, whatever your budget will allow. All right. Well, while we're on the subject of schools, and let's talk again. These are letters to the editor. I've got a couple of them here from the January 9th Idaho State Journal. How much longer is the fired coach fiasco going to go on? The school district followed its own procedure and now apparently doesn't like the outcome. So we won't do anything about it? Put the coach back to work. Lesson well learned, and let this thing die. How much more time and money do we spend over a picture that someone didn't like? No phone calls have been returned, and all go into hiding until the poo hits the fan again. Come on, folks at School District 25. Get your heads out of the sand. You made the rules, and now because it didn't go your way, nothing is getting done. Rehire her, and let's go on to bigger and better things. And that's from Brent Christensen of Pocatello. That's still generating steam. This was out of a couple days ago, January 12th, Idaho State Journal. Wanting to now second the fired coach, January 9's letter sentiments by Brent Christensen, and since Miss Cook was wrongly fired for her alleged immorality behavior, but not her fellow school district employee and boyfriend, whose hand placement was the issue of morality, now the correct moral thing to do is for Superintendent Wagner to morally vacate her administrative position. And if she does not do the morally right thing, then the correct moral thing for the school district, 25 board members, is for each of them is to fire her. And if they don't do their moral obligation as elected board members, it will then be the right moral thing for the citizens of this community to vote them out of office. And that's from M.K. Huftel of Pocatello. Well, you know, the only thing we have left apparently is the ballot box. And that's the one place where so far, you know, Big Brother's not watching over our shoulder. And so you can go ahead and vote your conscience in there if you want to. All right, so we'll continue on with this theme. This is from January 12th, week 1 in the Idaho legislature. Now, let's see, I think this is the one that was sent to us by our friend Lacey. I guess not. All right. Other disconnects would be the lack of any compensation increases for our teachers or our state employees, both of which have been doing without for many years. Really? There have been increases every year. At the least they got their COLA, unlike the private sector. Anyway, if we are to attain excellence in our school, and especially in our state, and especially in our schools, we must take care of our workers, the ones that make the cogs go round and round. Well, what about the private sector workers who are expected to pay the salaries of the cog pushers or turners? We must show people that they are appreciated rather than continue to disenfranchise them. I don't think any of our teachers have been disenfranchised. We can't do this with the anticipated $21 million reduction that is being proposed in Governor Otter's budget. While the governor has stated there will be no salary increases for state workers, now remember that, no salary increases for state workers. After 3 years of pestering by the Democrats, the Employee Compensation Committee was finally convened. The sentiment seems to be that state workers need wage adjustments because they're about 19% below what is being paid in other states. Well, you know, that's an apples and oranges thing because part of that's based on our economy. How do we match Massachusetts, New York, Illinois, California? They're a little bit different in what, you know, California has the 5th or 7th largest economy in the entire world. But I digress. Note there is no comparison with the private sector or on whose back the burden is placed. Some of us are working on fixes in education, state employee compensation, and fair and equitable treatment of Idahoans. Please contact me with ideas or comments, as my ears are open and I'm looking for ways to help Idaho. And I don't have I think that was from legislator Representative Lacey. I like Lacey. We're politically different on economics and that kind of stuff, and pulls apart on some things, but he's a nice guy. I like him. But I think he's wrong on this issue. Now, we just got through saying that public sector employees, state employees, are not going to get a raise. That was in January 12th, Idaho State Journal. Well, lo and behold, January 12th, Idaho State Journal, panel backs 2% pay raise for state workers. This is an AP article out of Boise. A bipartisan lawmaker panel Friday unanimously backed a proposal for a 2% pay increase for Idaho's 17,000 state workers in fiscal year 2015, saying agencies had too long relied on savings from attrition to boost employees' checks. The 18-member Change in Employee Compensation Committee said the pay should be awarded on a merit basis. The recommendation is only that the full legislature would have to back such a push, which could cost taxpayers about $11 million. So far, at least, Governor C.L. Busch Otter hasn't supported a state employee pay hike. So, two different articles about the same thing in the state. They were only A section and B section apart, I think it was. No, I guess they were all in A section. Anyway, I suspect that we'll see a 2% raise for state employees, and I'm not beefing about it. Whatever. Well, I think we have time for just a couple more letters to the editor. The other thing that's been really going on was this dog shooting. So here's from yesterday's Idaho State Journal. When a dog like Gunner, who was doing exactly what he was trained to do, retrieving the bird that his owner had shot and also wearing a hunting vest, could be shot and killed and nothing is done about it, I think we need some stronger laws. For instance, making it a felony to abuse or kill an animal, not just a misdemeanor. Well, look up the difference between felony and misdemeanor. I'm all for criminally prosecuting the guy, and apparently they do have somebody. No, his name has never been mentioned, so I don't know who he's related to, but they're keeping this a low one. Mr. Summit wrote about it a few weeks ago, and he says it's up to the people of Idaho to talk to our lawmakers and let them know that we want Idaho to join all of the other states in making animal abuse a felony. Then maybe when a great dog like Gunner is shot and left to die in the middle of the roads, something would be done to find the person who killed him. Well, the Sheriff's Department, Bingham County Sheriff, has found the person. Let's make our voices heard and let those who are responsible to make and change laws aware of what we want them to do. Stronger laws for the animals we love, and that's from Lou Donna Day of Downey. Well, folks, we're out of time, and boy, the time always goes quickly for me. I hope you enjoyed the program. I hope you were edified. I hope you got some information. In the meantime, hope you'll join us again next week, 8:30, Channel 12 on cable TV. Talk about us to your friends and neighbors. Maybe we can get some other people viewing. Our ratings went up last year, mostly because of the ordinance, but I think we're ahead of MSNBC right now. At any rate, it went too fast, so I'm going to just say thank you for viewing. God bless you and yours. Pray for our nation. Pray for Israel. And please come back to see us again next week at this time. Thank you for joining us. Good night.